I don't want it to be too sort of orchestrated, if that makes sense. I don't want it to be too like organised or set up. I think it's really important for me just to capture an essence of just life and people and buildings and sunsets and all this, and that's really key.
Welcome to the Flying Fruit Bowl, a platform dedicated to the discussion and exploration of art in the creative process. In today's episode, I had the chance to talk to the amazing William James Claridge. William is a UK-based photographer who creates mixed media images by combining paint and photography to challenge the viewer's thoughts about the world we live in. I had a great time talking to William, and I hope you enjoyed the interview too. Just introduce yourself and how you became an artist.
So I'm Will Claridge. I'm an emerging artist based in Essex and London. My work, if we look at the last series that I'm currently working with, it's called the Poetics of the Everyday, and it's taking photographs, film photographs, Polaroids, anything that's instant and has a process of development, and overpainting them. So with acrylic, oil, spray paint, and just with the idea that I'm obscuring the narrative, obscuring the image, and that allows for frustration or intrigue from the viewer to complete the narrative themselves and change the perspective. That's kind of my most recent series, and probably the best way to describe what you're going to see if you look me up.
So what actually made you become an artist?
I've been massively fascinated by photography since I can remember. So that's kind of why I turned to photography like more recently. I went to art school and then art university in Falmouth in Cornwall, got my degree, and whilst I was in uni, I was in my studio one day and I was painting these massive canvases and splattered a load of paint over these leftover photographs that I got developed. And obviously, very annoyed at the moment. I'd ruined these photographs, but returning to them a few months later, I kind of found this beauty in them. There's kind of this like lovely relationship between the paint and the photograph. And that's kind of what's made me kind of go back to it more recently. I've kind of looked back through sketchbooks and found this thing that was just quite nice, but quite different. And I've sort of worked on that recently. And yeah, so I kind of found art quite a young age with photography, and then been like an abstract painter, probably mostly. And then art school, university, and now I'm 3 years out of uni, and it's my business. So yeah.
And how did you find the experience of university? Did it actually help you?
So university was brilliant. I was blown away. Choosing Falmouth was important to me because I've been going down to Cornwall since I can remember. So there's like a massive amount of inspiration for me. I love being by the coast. So it's quite easy to choose, and the studios were nice and big, and the facilities were fantastic, and I was really impressed by the whole university. Uni was very interesting in terms of you're kind of left on your own. You're left to your own devices. It's very independent. Like the study is very independent. 1 or 2 lectures a week. But I kind of liked that towards the end because it sort of forces you to sort of mature and find your signature way of working and how you create. So yeah, in my third year, I would say that I probably enjoyed my third year the most, purely because of that independence and ability just to go into studio every day and create art and create stuff you like and get your theory base down and just work out exactly your vision and your passion and how to get it onto paper, really.
And do you prefer working alone?
Yeah, I think so. I think what was nice is we had this big studio called the Goldfish Bowl, which I was in, and you sort of shared little pockets of rooms with other artists. So yes, you're on your own creating, but at any point you can sort of take your headphones out, turn around, chat to someone else, get some ideas of other people, and have like mini crits with your peers. So there's kind of the best of both worlds. I like to work quite late. I was a bit of a night owl at uni, and so I'd be in the studio quite late and working like that. So there was a lot of time where I was on my own, but actually kind of enjoyed that. Enjoyed that space.
Do you think that now you're outside of university, you're part of a larger art community?
Yeah, so coming out of uni, I was very unsure of how to sort of make it, how to become an artist in the world. You know, this world is scary anyway, and I think one of our lecturers said, you know, out of the 100 people in our year, 5% of you will continue to be artists and maintain it as a career. So that was a shocking statistic. Um, but yeah, the art industry is a brutal one, but it is also small. I thought it was going to be huge, but being an art fair manager as well, you know, you kind of you make your friends and you make you meet your colleagues and clients, and you soon find that a everyone's sort of out for themselves in terms of selling and being an artist, but there is definitely a sense of community, especially in the London scene, where you kind of you bump into people, you meet people, and you follow each other on Instagram, on social medias, and you soon become this like family, and like you have little pockets of friends within the community, and I think that's been really nice.
And how has where you live affected the art you create?
So locally, so I live in Essex. Locally, I've been able to get out with my film camera and my Polaroids and sort of really soak up the local landscape. Um, London as well, and that's kind of where you know, I've been able to sell work locally if it's of like a local place because people relate to it. They relate to the work really like, you know, straight away. They're like, oh yeah, that's so and so or blah, blah, blah. But what I also like is I can go to the coast and make my work generic. So I can just like make a coastal scene and people can relate to that from anywhere really. Um, but I'm unfortunately this year has stopped me, but I was keen to get out and get abroad and you know get around Europe with my film cameras and but that will come, that will happen.
So, why did you choose film photography? Is the analog part of it important to you?
Yeah, so film. I really just like the process, and I like because obviously, granted, film photography is like you know it's an old form of photography. It's an old process, so you're not going to get the cleanest, sharpest photography. But I think that's important to me. But you know, I feel like we live in a society where we're all about the now, the latest technology, the perfect image, the instance of information, and it's got to be quick and perfect all the time. And like come away from that a little bit and just work with something that was a little bit old. You have to actually like use your brain, like work out how to use it, work out how to develop. And but some of the results have been absolutely beautiful and probably results I wouldn't have got just taking the perfect image. And you know, you have a camera or a phone and you take a photo. If you don't like it, you can just delete it and start again. With the film photography, you take a photo, that's it. You can't redo it. You've got to wait for it to be processed. But with the film photography, after the process, you've got a physical photograph. So I kind of like that it acts like an original, although it can be reproduced. It's like I'm working with that one piece there and then in the moment, which is a huge part of my work anyway. So yeah, and yeah, it's good fun.
Of course, I think that's something that's really interesting. I thought about your work is that it's very original. So it's like because you're creating, it's not just an image; it's also a combination of art and imagery. And you sell them as original pieces, really, don't you?
Yeah, so I'm yet to play around with prints. I'm a little bit nervous to play around with prints because my originals are they're affordable, you know, and they're one-offs, and I really enjoy the fact that they are one-offs, and I've got the time and you know I'm putting the effort in to create enough work where I don't need hundreds of prints to sell. Um, and if you see a piece of my work online anywhere, that's it. That's the only piece of art. I think I've had you know a few people come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw that one sold. Can I have one, please?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's gone. Like that's the only piece." And I can do one similar, of course, you know. Um, but again, even if I use the same photograph, you know, the application of paint is going to be different. It could be different colors. It could be different mediums. So therefore, everyone's getting a unique piece that will be unique to them. And I really enjoy that. I think everyone should be able to own an original piece of art. You know, I think prints are great and they hold so much value. And I know friends and artists that are, you know, reliant on prints and screen printing and that is fantastic and they're absolutely smashing it. But I just really like the original aspect of it.
So I think it's great because I've seen that you do like online auctions for your art, and you always have like a huge thick stack of prints you've created, images you've created. I like actually how open you are on social media. You're very like friendly. You know, you want people to be connected with you, and I like that. I think that's
Yeah,
great
so I
because
was just going to say, I think it's really important in this world to be approachable. I've always I've always answered people's questions. You know sometimes it takes a few days to get back to emails, but I'll always reply. I think it's so important in this world to not ignore people and to there's no such thing as a silly question. Like if someone says, "Oh, can I get that framed in green?" and I don't do that, but I work out a way to get it done. And I think it's important for artists to be seen as humans. We're the same as the client. We're trying to make a living, and actually we love it when people come to us and message us and say, "Oh, hey, love your work," and it's really nice to see. Yeah.
but are there any misconceptions that you don't like about being an artist?
um Anything I don't like? Oh, that's a good question, Aaron. I suppose one frustrating thing, but this is so subjective to everyone, is you can spend you have this amazing idea and you're like, okay, this is going to be the next best series. You get into the studio, you smash out a load of work, and you're like, yeah, this is going to absolutely fly. I've got a really good feeling about this, and then nothing happens from it. Not. I'm not even worried about the sales, but there's not many comments and not many likes and not many sort of interactions with it. So the feedback's very minimal, and I'm sort of sat there going, did that work? Was that rubbish? So that kind of unknowing can be quite difficult and quite draining for artists, I think, because there's a sense of, am I developing? Am I, continuously moving forward and increasing my practice and getting better? So I've always been an advocate of, if I see something I like on Instagram, I'll let them know. I'll like it or I'll comment. I think it's so important for artists to know that they're doing well or making nice work. So yeah, that's probably quite frustrating when something it's probably the work's probably, it's not the work's bad. I think it's just that maybe I didn't hit the right marketing point or whatever it may be. So yeah, that can be quite frustrating.
And how has your work developed since you first started?
Good question. So I'll talk about sort of post uni, because university, they really do push you to be weird and wacky and try all these wonderful things. So university was very much video work, installation, very sensory, sort of being in a space and experiencing things. I really enjoyed, um, you know, general public or viewers going through an experience with my work, even if that's just looking at a painting or listening to a song or watching a video I've made, whatever it may be. So that's kind of carried through. I love the idea of altering perception. I think that's really exciting and interesting. And I've loved visiting artists and exhibitions in London and other cities, in Amsterdam. And you visit artists that are breaking the boundaries of art and breaking the boundaries of the gallery space, and that's really fascinating to me. So I think that has carried through into my practice now, where I've sort of thought, okay, I need to be more commercial to make a living from this. So how can I I've got all this theory, let's put that into the practice, let's put that into the artwork for sale. So to answer your question, post uni, I came out and started doing a bit of landscape work, made some prints, and I had like a mini series of those and was pushing those for about a year. At the same time, I was working for a gallery in London, actually. So that kind of worked hand in hand. That was quite nice. And then I think it was about a year and a half ago, I returned to my overpainted photographs and have since I just enjoy it, Aaron. I just love it. And actually, like, you know, people say, oh, a series should only last 6 months and then you should move on. But I think if you're enjoying it and you've got traction with it, just keep going. I've had some people say, I had a lovely compliment the other day actually saying that they've never seen what I've done before and they think that I've maybe found my signature. And even if I do move on to something different, I think I'll always do photographs on the side. I think it'll be something that I'll always have, just because I really enjoy it. People, it's kind of new, it's a bit different. So
Yeah, definitely. I look at a lot of art, and it's definitely interesting. So, actually, let's talk a bit more about your actual work.
So from the film camera, so when I go out, I could be visiting friends in Bristol. I could be back down in Cornwall, uh, living locally. And if I know I've got something coming up, whack a roll of film in the film camera. I know I'm going to be taking photos. I think knowing what to shoot is something I'm still learning. Um, I'm getting better at it. I think when I first started with the film photography, I was shooting a roll of film and probably using maybe 5 of the 36 photos. Now I'm using more like 20, so I'm really trying to hone in on what I actually want to take photos and not just being trigger happy with it. I'm thinking about my composition and but also in that respect, just quickly go off a tangent here. Um, the idea of being trigger happy is okay because my work is about the everyday. So it's about capturing the everyday people. So I don't want it to be too sort of orchestrated, if that makes sense. I don't want it to be too like organized or set up. I think it's really important for me just to capture an essence of just life and people and buildings and sunsets and all this. And that's really key. So choosing what to paint over is very much pick up my development from the lab, um, and I go, okay, so I flick through them, and I can instantly from let's say I've got 36 photos to look through. I think I can probably put 3 aside straight away that I'm going to go, yep, definitely paint on those. They've the light's lovely, the composition's really nice. Um, I've got my commercial head on, so if it's St Paul's Cathedral, I'm like, right, the London lot will love that. That's going there. It's a really nice photo. And then probably after that 3, there's about 10 that I go, yeah, I can really work with them. And then there's another 10 that I sort of put to the other side and leave. But ironically, the ones that I sort of discard have been some of my better work because I go back to it and I'm like, that's quite interesting. It's a bit blurry. It's not perfect, but with the right paint on it, it's really nice. So yeah, it's difficult. I've kind of not really answered your question there, but it's difficult to choose what to paint over. But I did back in summer. I did a £10 raffle, and I had a load of work, as you say earlier. Like I had a load of work that was, in my eyes, not good enough to frame up and put into an art fair. Still good work, and I called it Perfect Imperfections. And £10, and people could get their hands on the original piece of art, and it was really, really enjoyable, and I loved doing that, and had a really good response. So, um, yeah, I think my idea of what's perfect and what will sell isn't necessarily somebody else's idea of what's perfect and will sit on their wall. So I like to make a lot of work, and I like to give people a lot of options. And if someone comes to me and say, "Oh, I really want a painting," or have you got any pieces of, I don't know, Newcastle? I'm like, oh no, I haven't been to Newcastle, but I've got this city scene that's kind of similar. It might be Glasgow or Manchester or somewhere, and they're like, oh yeah, I love that. So, but I also take commissions, and commissions are great because people go, oh, I want you to go and shoot there. Yeah, fine, no worries, and I charge them for that. And or people send me their own photographs, and that's also really exciting. I've done people's wedding photos. I've done people's holiday snaps. They just send them in the post. I work on them, take a bit of time and send it back and or get them framed for them. And yeah, it's really nice actually.
Does that ever make you nervous though that you might, mess it up potentially or
Oh god, yeah. The wedding ones is a good friend of mine, an artist called Amy Beeger. She's fantastic, and her and her husband had these 2 beautiful wedding photos. It was really nice actually because she said she wouldn't necessarily put wedding photos up in her house, but if they turned into pieces of art, then it's something that they could put up. But I must have sat for about a week going, I can't put paint on these photos. So yeah, that was challenging. But I did it, and she was over the moon with them, and it was a really nice present back. So yeah, but it does make me nervous. I always say to the artist or the client, make sure you've got copies.
of course, yeah. So do you consider your work to be personal then? Or would you consider it to be more commercial?
um, I think what I like is that somebody could take it personally, and I really enjoy that. It could be a scene of London with a load of bodies, and to everyone, it's like, oh, that's just a generic scene. It's quite commercial. It's quite cool. You've got the sun hitting that building. Yeah, it's really nice. but there could be one person that says my flat's in that photo, and therefore it's it's really personal to them, and or I mean, I'm yet to come across a moment when they say I'm actually in that photo. That would be nice. So yeah, I think there's an aspect of it being personal. Um, I tend to stay away from identity, so I wouldn't necessarily shoot someone's like portrait square on, just because I don't think that's are you going to buy something that is like, let's say it's my mate, for example. Nobody's going to necessarily put that on their wall and put that into their collection. Whereas if it's like a group scene or a few people or someone looking down like rolling a cigarette or planting plants in a but they're doing something, they're active, then that's a bit different because it's like a sense of um, you don't automatically connect with the person you're looking at. You connect with the action, you connect with the moment, and that's kind of what the essence I'm trying to capture there.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense looking at your work. And I think that's actually the strength of it as well, though. That it's not about one person or one particular person or particular area. It's about you know kind of just the landscape and the environment and kind of the act of living, I guess, in many ways. I think that's quite interesting. So, what would you say? What do you think your work says about you?
Oh, good question. No one's ever asked me that. Um, I hope I come across as fun. I hope I come across as. I hope it speaks for a sense of capturing the now. The times we're living in. I've actually stayed away from doing like a COVID series. I think I want to. I've seen a lot of it, so I think it's important to try to stay away from that. But I do think it's important for me to capture the now and the everyday, and to be quite honest and quite personal. I think I I capture my emotions. If I go out to shoot and I've had like really bad news, or I'm feeling really really angry or upset, I think my photography can capture that, and I know that when I then get them developed, maybe even if it's a month later and I'm out of that rut, that I will look back at that photograph and remember what I was feeling at that time, and then I paint in response to that, if that makes sense. Um, so that doesn't happen very often. I'm quite a happy person, so most of the time it's very colourful and uh, you know a celebration of life. I think life's very short, and I think we should be living every day and really celebrating and looking up. Look up from our phones and see what's around us. And I live in Essex, and um, I love where I live. There's so much countryside, and um, I don't think we take for granted where we live in this country. And yeah, trying to capture that. So I think that kind of speaks volumes for me. Anyone who knows me will know that I'm always up for going out and socialising and going to see things and walking and doing all these bits. So yeah, I think that's probably what it says.
No, that's a great answer. That's an absolute answer. Have you ever actually used like a digital camera to create images?
Yeah, so I've got a lovely DSLR. I've got a really nice camera. I don't use it as much. I think with the film photography and the Polaroids, especially the Polaroids, because it's instant. You just take the photo out of the camera straight away. There's an element of it being more fun, an element of it being more instant, and like definitely more in the moment with the Polaroids. And I'm saving up for a new camera that's like a wider Polaroid, and just so I'll have bigger images. Um, yeah, so the DSLR and the camera, yeah, I do shoot on that. I've got some lovely shots. I travelled around Europe a few years back and got some fantastic photos of that. And if people ask for a commission of a place, then if I've got the photo and it's maybe shot on my Canon, I will say this is on a Canon. That 9 times out of 10 they say yeah, that's fine. I did a for my grandparents, actually. They commissioned me for a photograph of Venice, but and it was nice because the photograph was on Canon. It's a beautiful photograph, very clear, very crisp, and the paint worked beautifully over the top of it. So I think it's something that I will explore more. But I think at the moment, because my theme and my theory is about that sort of aged process and that sort of moment of capturing the now and not being able to tamper with it. Because it's very easy to take a good photograph and then go straight into Photoshop and make it the perfect image. And as much as like I appreciate good photography, I I really do enjoy that old process. And I think I think it's become part of my craft, part of my sort of my story, if you like. Um,
That's right, yeah, that's what I
yeah.
So, what kind of responses do you normally get from your work?
Yeah, good and bad responses, but I love criticism, because without criticism you can't really develop and move forward. I know people that absolutely hate getting criticism. They think that people are, rude, and I always say to them, if everybody said, "Oh, your work's really good," you wouldn't develop, you wouldn't move forward. Or I always ask my friends, I send them a new piece of work, and my first question is, "What's wrong with it?" If I show them a piece of work, I'm like, "So what's wrong with it?" And they're kind of like, "What do you mean? It's really nice." And I'm like, "Yeah, but is there anything that I could work on?" And they're normally quite honest, which is nice. They might say, "Oh, okay, the colour's not quite right," or maybe you should sort of shot it that way, or whether I agree with them or not, that's the different matter. And 9 times out of 10, I sort of just I'm happy with what I've created. But yeah, I think criticism is important, and we people take it the wrong way, and I think people are too sensitive. I know it's their baby and it's their art, and it's everything that they've probably poured hours and blood, sweat, and tears into it. But you know, surely you'd want to make the next piece even better. So, in terms of what people say, lovely compliments, and you sort of see that on social media, which is really nice. And I love receiving that. I had one pal who thought that I was dropping yogurt on my photos. Yeah, so it's things like that. But I love that comment. I think that's great, because he obviously meant it with love, and it's humorous and it's funny, and I love that it's creating that humor in people. I'm never going to be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you said that." Like, no, it's great. I think that's funny. I think something like landscape art is wonderful, and there's so much space for it, and there's so much of it out there. But it's very much what you see is what you get. You look at it, you're like, "Oh, that's a pretty landscape." That's it. You don't really need to comment. Whereas with my work, it's kind of, because it is different and unique. There's like more to see, maybe, and people kind of relate to it in different ways. They're like, "Oh, it's photography. Oh, and it's paint." So there's two things straight away. And some of my photographs, there's so much going on in the image that you kind of get drawn back to it each time. It's quite nice. So, yeah, it's definitely different and weird. But I like different and weird, and I think if people sort of go, "Oh, I haven't seen this before. This is unusual," then that's a massive compliment to me. I'm like, brilliant. That's great. I love that.
So, what kind of conversation are you trying to create?
First off, if I'm getting work in somebody's house, aesthetic is most important, and that could be color scheme. So I'd love for that to be the most important priority. Is like they like the work, but I think in terms of conversation, I think it's probably some sort of people being able to relate to it in some way. When I've done art fairs and people looking at work, I'll often ask them the question, "Where are you from? What do you do for a living? Like, what are your hobbies?" And if they say something that I know I've got a piece of, then it's like I pull it out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, brilliant! This is great," because straight away they're relating to it. But then on the flip side, I think conversations also happened where people have bought stuff because it's so far from what they do or know, or So this couple in London last month, I did an art market, and they bought this piece of like a trawler boat of off the coast of, I can't remember where it was. It wasn't my photograph actually. I got donated some photographs from an artist, and that was so far from their flat in London and what they did for a living, and who they knew and their hobbies, that they kind of wanted that contrast in their house. So then that's an instant conversation piece in their house. It's like, "Oh, where's that?" And it's from this artist, blah blah blah. And I kind of enjoy that as well. So yeah.
And is it important for your work to create discussion?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I've got so much theory behind it in my head, um, I'm very much, I let people look, I let people experience the art. I let people go, "Okay, here's the art on the wall. I want them to look at it, to view it." I don't want to flood them with information or flood them with like, oh, this means that and this means that and that color choice is because of this, and because it's too much for people to take on. I want people to experience the art first and fall in love with it and then know about the theory. Maybe I think it is important to create for my work to create discussion.
What are your thoughts on social media and how has it impacted the way you create work?
Okay, so social media is a fantastic platform, and it's I'm always going to owe it my life because it's making me my living. It's making me sales. It's improving my exposure. The reason we're talking now is through social media, and I'll always think, yeah, the technology behind that and the platforms are fantastic. I also hate it because it's it's a devil. It zaps your energy. It can take up your time. It can cause you to sit and overthink about something. There's no need for you to overthink. There are certain points in the day where I have to just turn my phone or turn it off or put it away and just crack on with something else. But yeah, I think it is good. I think it's definitely an important tool for artists, and sadly, I think it's something that we've got to turn to, because we can't go out and host shows or go to shows or be part of group exhibitions or represented by galleries because people just aren't allowed to go out and aren't allowed to see this work in the flesh. So there are a lot of artists that have had to rely on social media, and a good artist friend of mine that lives in the village over, he's not as present on social media, and because he relies on people seeing his work in the flesh, I don't think he'd mind me saying that he unfortunately he needs to be more present on social media for the sales, but I completely understand why he's not, because you can end up creating work or pushing a sale or pushing your marketing with work that you're not 100% happy with, and therefore you're trying to chase the market, trying to chase the sale, and it just looks desperate. So I understand why he's doing it, and then when he does post a piece, 9 times out of 10 he sells it. He's very successful in that respect. So yeah, social media is a tricky one because I think inevitably we're moving towards a world where we're not going to be able to live without it. But I'm kind of old school, and I think that's quite sad that that's going to be the case.
So do you think your work translates well online?
I think so. I think I'm lucky because it's photography. I think photography translates brilliantly online. Sometimes I take photographs and the paint just doesn't look right, and that's annoying. But yeah, I think it's okay. I think it does translate well, and I've taught myself how to photograph my work, and I think that's always improving. So I'm looking at new ways to actually present my work online. But the I think the thing that I struggle with is my work. So I float frame a lot of my pieces because I like people to see that they're looking at an actual photograph, like so they can see the edges and it's not a print. When people see my work or pick up a framed Polaroid, for example, they're looking to the side because they can see that it's an actual Polaroid, and it kind of helps with the sale. They kind of know it's authentic, they know it's original. Whereas online, it is just an image, and it could be anything. They don't know how big it is, they don't know if it's a print. And colors don't run true online. As much as we try to keep it looking real, everybody edits color, everybody makes things look better online. So I I love I would prefer for people to see my work in the flesh, but it's just so difficult. It's so difficult at the moment, and yeah, I hope that next year will be a different story.
I hope so too.
Yeah,
So how do you try and engage people with your work so that they don't just like look at your Instagram, say, and like it? They actually want to engage with your work.
a number of ways, really. I think the easiest way is to put money into social media. So maybe put promotion on. It broadens who Instagram show it to. So you get new followers, you get new likes, new people sort of seeing it, which I think is really important. But that can be a slippery slope because you could end up spending way too much money than needed. Um, but in the post on Instagram, ask questions. What do you think of this one? And on your stories, put up polls, put up things for interaction. I think general public love to do something. They love flicking through Instagram, but if there's something to do, they love it because it's like, oh, I'm going to vote on this, or I'm going to quickly comment on that. And it's not for everyone, but I think that's helped me. If I've said to someone, "Oh, do you prefer black and white photography or color photography?" and then I get like a poll and I get like 60-40%, it helps the artist because I'm like, okay, I know what people want. But also, if you've consciously voted, you're then thinking about it. And then the next time I put up a piece that's black and white that's met your criteria of voting, you're like, oh yeah, I actually quite like that. And I think I've had that a few times where people have said, oh, I voted on this, and you've now created some black and white pieces. Can I request one, or can I look at one further? And that sort of helps. So dialogue is really important on social media. I've always said commissions are always open. There's no such thing as commissions being, people say the commission list is full, and it just winds me up. You should always be open for commissions and dialogue and conversation. Even if it takes time, the client's always going to understand that you're an artist and you're going to take time on your practice. So yeah, I've always advised people just to message me and be in touch. So yeah.
So do you ever worry about the oversaturation of the art community?
Yeah, all the time. And being an art fair manager, I run the art fair page on social medias, and there's just so much there. To be brutally honest, there's a lot of charities going on. There's a lot of sales, and I think people are coming across as desperate. Coming across as trying too hard to sell the work rather than just showing off what you're good at and showing off your practice and your craft. And yeah, there's definitely a danger of oversaturation, and I do it myself, where if I posted every day for a week, I might have a couple of days off just to not bore people. As much as I love to bore people, it's kind of like catch 22, because the theory side of things is like, I like the mundane, I like the boring every day, but in terms of social media, I think it's important to change things up. If you're posting every morning, maybe one night post in an evening, and have like 4 days off of social media, and then people will kind of go, oh, where's he gone? And then he comes back, and then it's like that post back gets way more likes because it's like, oh, he's back, he's doing stuff again. But I do believe that too big a gap off social media can have detriment. I had a period actually in September this year where I took about 2 weeks off of social media, just wasn't in the space, and just had to step back from it. And I came back to it to crack on, and there was lack of engagement. It was like I was starting again. It was just really hard to really get going. And I think it's important to maintain some level of flow and some level of continue posting to keep your audience engaged. But like I said, having a couple of days off here and there can actually be beneficial. Not only for you, it kind of gives you a breather, but it gives other people a breather of you as well. And there's loads of tactics out there. There's ways of saying, this series is available until the end of December, and then the price is going up. So, make sure you get yours now, and then leave that, just leave it and let it fester, and people sort of think about it. And also, general public, a lot of people will buy work post payday. So during the month, they maybe put it in their basket in their head, and they go, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that. So just keep posting it, and keep things sort of ticking along with clients in that respect. And yeah, once their money's come in, then they kind of go, yeah, I'm going to actually grab this now. So
Do you ever feel the pressure to create more work as your audience grows?
yeah, I think so. But I think it's still about creating work that is good, and work that, without there being a pressure of having to create good work. I think it's important to know what you're creating and try not to. So there's always it's about knowing the time to step away from something. So back in April and May, I did a series called Daisy Chain, and it was Polaroids of daisies. Daisies were in bloom in my garden, and I sold out. The whole series sold out. Absolutely fantastic. Within probably about a space of a month, sold about 10 pieces of art. So then, coming to the end of that, signing it off, if you like, the businessman in me should have gone, well, create more of those because they'll sell again. But I think it's important to note, no, they've sold out. If you try and create another 10, they might not sell out. So it's about knowing when to go, right, that's it, I'm signing off on that. I might try it again next year, like reintroduce it. But I think it's about keeping things quite fresh and sort of moving forward. So yeah, it can be difficult. It can be difficult to know when to do that. But yeah, did that answer your question? I don't really know.
That was fine. So do you think that the ability to reproduce digital images has lessened the impact of photography?
A reproduction in terms of what? So
So the fact that we're able to just take an image real quickly and upload it pretty much within a few hours.
oh, good question. I don't know how to answer that. I will reproduce a piece again, but I might change the size of it. I think that's how I've approached it before in the past, where if someone is buying an original piece of art, I want it to be original for them. If they then saw their image another 10 times, even with different paint on, they might be a bit like, hmm. So what I tend to do is create the same image, like 6x4 photograph is like my standard size. If they've bought that and I want to recreate the image, or the image has had really good response online, then I might say, okay, that one's sold out, but there's an A4 version and an A3 version, A2 and A1 version. So I've got the ability to increase the size, which then keeps everything original. So there's two photographs that I've sold the original 6x4, an A4 piece, and an A2 piece of both. So technically, if you look at like a series, there's only like two sizes left. And once they go, I probably won't go back to that photograph unless I do something really different. I like originality. I think that's important in my work because I've got the ability to capture so much. And you know, if the photograph that they love is of a sunset, and I go like chung chung, capture that sunset. If I move the camera slightly to the left and capture a very similar photo, they're still different photographs. So I've kind of got the ability to create a similar photograph 100 times, as long as it's different or different locations, you know. And that's why getting abroad would be so handy right now. Yeah, we'll see.
So where's been your favourite place to shoot?
Oh, for me. I love flowers. I absolutely love flowers, and so it's seasonal for me. So springtime is really important. You know, as soon as spring hits, I'm like in all the local gardens, centres, and gardens, and yeah, just getting about. But coastal, I love shooting locally because it's my hometown. It's, you know, where I'm from. It's got my sort of personal attachment to it. But I don't think it's a place that I don't like shooting. London's great because it's so busy. There's always something going on. It's so different the whole time. But yeah, like I said earlier, you know, if I'm heading to Bristol or Wales or Manchester to see friends, then, you know, the film camera comes with me. I was in Cambridge yesterday, film camera on me. I didn't take a single photograph, but it's there just in case, you know. It doesn't leave my side, just in case. Yeah.
Do you create art for yourself first and foremost?
Oh, good question. No, I don't actually create art for myself, which is, I don't know why I don't. I collect. I'm an art collector, so my most recent purchase was a Chloe McCarrick print. You should check her out; she's great. So that's my most recent purchase. My room has got a load of art in it, none of my own, but my family have all purchased art of mine. So my art is, I'm looking around, like, there is art in my house, but it's my parents' piece, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I think I create some little pieces, and I'm like, oh my god, that's I love it. It's brilliant, and I think I'm going to keep hold of that, and I do keep hold of it for a little bit, and then I put it online anyway, and just say, look, I love this piece, one of my favourites, and I might caption it like, oh, I'll be sad to see this one go. And if someone buys it, then they get to share that with me and they get to enjoy that piece. And if it doesn't, then I get to keep hold of it for a little longer. So, yeah.
So what makes a good image?
Ooh. I think, without blowing my own trumpet, I think I've got a good eye for photography. I think that's what people have commented on from a young age, is my ability to capture something that other people aren't seeing. I've been out with girlfriends and friends and family out and about on the streets and parties, and they sort of turn around and I'm gone, and I'm like lying down on the street, like trying to take a photograph of a building, because I think I see the world a little bit differently, and I enjoy that different angle, I suppose. And I think I'd like to capture that. I think I'd like to capture that different angle, that different perspective, and what people maybe aren't looking at. It's difficult because my idea of a good image is probably somebody else's idea of like, what the hell's that? But yeah, I like to think that I've got an eye for getting down and dirty and like getting different angles. And I've actually got a series coming out next year, little exclusive to Flying Fruit Bowl here, but yeah, so it's a Polaroid series of wheat, corn, but it's shot from like underneath, like looking up at the and really cool. And at first you're like, what the hell am I looking at here? But once you worked out what it is, it's quite special. So that's tucked away. I'm keeping that one for next year. Just for the weather to get better, I think people will sort of, and that's it as well. Like I've got a stack of photographs that won't be released yet because when the weather gets better, I think people then are inclined to buy work that emulates the moment they're living in. So I mean, it snowed this morning, and I was keen to get out with my camera this morning, but I had some other bits to do, so I didn't. But if it snows again, I'm going to try and capture some snow scenes. But then this is the difficulty, a snowy photo or a Christmas photo, because people keep saying to me, "Oh, have you got any Christmas photos?" And I'm like, I don't really, because I'll only really be able to market that and sell that this time of year. So I like work to be able to have a place. That's why my most recent Polaroid series is like bright colors with summer flowers and selling a couple, because people are like, oh, I missed that time, or I'm looking forward to that time again, so they're buying it now. So I don't know, difficult question, but yeah, I don't know what the perfect image is. There's one photo I took in India, God, like 7 years ago now, of a man washing a pot in a river, and it's to this day my favourite photo. No one's ever seen it either. I've kept it really hidden. Yeah,
That's a good thing though. Like sometimes you need art for yourself as well.
yeah, absolutely. I think that one's for myself. If you want art for myself, and one day I'll get it printed and frame it and just be like, that's my favourite photo. Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah.
So what was the last image that you saw that captivated you?
Of my own or someone else's?
Someone else's.
Oh, good question. Last image. You know what? I'm gonna have a little quick look at my phone because I say stuff all the time, and I want to give you an honest answer. I was in Cambridge yesterday and I saw a David Hockney painting in a gallery, and that was brilliant. Oh, okay, here we go. I don't know how famous this person is, but there was a photograph, a process of a tree over 5 panels. The artist is Joe R. Wright. Joe R. Wright on Instagram, and it's like this. Obviously, can't see it for the interview, but it's
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, really nice. So yeah, so for those who are sort of listening, it's black and white. It's this tree that's very central, but it looks like it's sort of 5 images that have made up this one picture. Really drawn to that, and I've again Fruit Bowl exclusive here, but I've got a tree series coming out, black and white Polaroid tree series, individual pieces, and they might go up soon actually, if I can pull my finger out. So yeah, some exciting stuff coming, and I think I like looking forward to bits coming out. But yeah, that's probably my most recent photograph or image that I've seen and gone, yeah, I really appreciate that. I really like that.
So what does being a successful artist mean to you?
Oh, success is a scary word. I don't think I'm successful yet. I think I'm emerging. I'm finding my feet and building my client base and my fans. If you, I hate the word fans, but a successful day is never about sales. It's never about making money. I think money shows how successful you were. But I think the art speaks louder volumes, if that makes sense. It's about the art. A successful day for me is getting in the studio and cracking out some really nice work and coming away from it like with a flood of endorphins, just absolutely buzzing off of like a really good day. So yeah, success definitely lies in the artwork, definitely, and seeing it in other people's art. I think, yeah, you're successful because you're making art and it's good, and you're loving what you do, and there's a constant for you, and you're getting really good interaction. I think somebody with 300 followers compared to 30,000, I think they're both as successful as each other. I think people would argue with me on that, but I think if you're happy and you enjoy what you're doing, and you're making good work and people are enjoying it and you're making the occasional sale, then you're successful. You're doing well. You're definitely on the way to something, and keep going and try new things. Yeah, definitely.
And how much weight do you put into social media stats? So, likes, followers, comments, etc.
I think unfortunately we all watch our followers and we all love it when we get more followers, and yeah, it can. I think we can get wrapped up in that very, very quickly and very easily. But it's not about followers for me. I think it's about the work. I think it's about your story. I think it's about your journey, and being authentic and being real with your followers. And you said earlier that you think I'm approachable enough, and I think that's more important to me, to be authentic and to be real and to be like, I'm here doing my thing, trying to make my living, doing my art, and if you like it, then great. If you don't, then fine, have a good day.
So do you think it's important for artists to have like a big, like have as many followers as they can, or do you think it's more artists should focus more on who's actually looking at their work and engaging with the people who are actually looking at it?
Yeah, I think people get wrapped up in followers, and that kind of links into our, the comment about success, kind of go hand in hand. But I think a comment where someone says, "Hey man, love this," is more important to me than 25 new followers. Somebody's taking their time out of their day to comment. It means a lot to me. It's kind of why I do it as well. Is that feedback is so lovely, and that it's not about reassurance. It's just about kind of knowing that you're doing art for yourself, but the fact that somebody else can look at what you're creating and love it enough to comment and maybe even buy it and put it in their home, or gift it as a present, like that's the biggest compliment any artist can receive, I think.
So what are you currently working on?
That would be telling. No, so I've got a few commissions actually, which is really nice for Christmas. So it's like a nice project. It kind of takes me away from worrying about what to post on Instagram. I know that I'm busy and I've got these commissions in, so that's really good. Currently, there's a few pieces that will be released this week on social media. So, and the week after that, I don't think I'll stop. I've got some nice pieces coming up. Also got an art market on the 19th of December in Wood Green in London. So I actually get to go outside and see people, which is nice. And I'll have some brand new work there and some very affordable work and stuff for Christmas and bits and bobs going on there. So yeah, just pushing towards Christmas now, really. And then the new year, we'll see where it takes me and see what direction I'm gonna jump into. But yeah.
So I guess the last thing really is that where can people find more about you and your work?
So I'll direct people to my website, which is www.williamjamesclaridge.com. And then my Instagram is willclaridge.art, same as my Facebook. Or you can email me, and you can find my email address, my phone number, all online as well. So just, people to get in touch. I've got work in a number of galleries as well. On Art Republic. I'm on Unseen Art Project. I'm going to miss out people here. There's a number of galleries that I'm on as well, which is nice. New Art Exchange, New Artist Rebellion. These are all sort of independent online art galleries. Work's all available on those. N1 Art Gallery was a recent one. There's enough. Adlib Gallery, and I got into Adlib Gallery physically. I had work in there, and that was really nice. Just had a week down in Fulham. Had a show on, so that was really great. But like I said, this year has absolutely just carboshed. Anything physical and actually, to go and see something. So next year, hopefully, solo show. I had planned for a solo show, so that's postponed to next year. That's very exciting. And then an art fair in May. We'll see from there. We'll go from there.
That concludes my interview with William James Claridge. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any comments or questions, please shoot me an email at theflyingfruitbowl@gmail.com. Also, the Flying Fruit Bowl audio interviews are available on platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. So if you like the show, please support it by subscribing or sharing with friends. As well as these audio interviews, I run theflyingfruitbowl.co.uk, which is a daily art inspiration website. If you're a fan of art and are looking to be inspired, please check it out. And if you're a creative, please get in touch for a chance to be featured or interviewed. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and until next time folks, please stay safe.